I love JDM cars. Most likely you do too if you clicked on this video, but they're expensive. Oh no. When I don't have $50,000 to drop on an FD RX7, I'll never be able to own a JDM car. Wrong. My name's Mark Roden, and today I got you covered 20 JDM cars for less than $10,000. Even in today's market, yes, they still exist. I know, I'm quite surprised about it too. Now, before we get into this video, I do want to admit that not all the term JDM is used lightly here. We all know what I mean when I say JDM. I mean Japanese sports cars. These cars aren't actually all Japanese domestic market cars imported into America for you to buy. That's not what I mean by that. I just mean JDM because it's a common term. Everybody uses it now. You know what I mean. Stop being difficult is what I'm trying to say. But song of the day is Travis Scott, My Eyes, specifically past like the 1 minute 40-second mark. It's a rap song, and at that point it goes hard. The whole song goes like, goes like stiff, but then at like 1 minute 40 it goes hard. So go listen to it if you like rap music. If you don't like rap music, don't listen to it, obviously, because you won't like it. But anyway, without further ado, let's go right into the list with number 20. Coming in at the number 20 spot is the Nissan Safiro A31. This is an actual import. There's only like 2 actual JDM, technically JDM cars on this list, but we all know what I mean when I say JDM. I mean Japanese, but this is one that is actually JDM. Like, it's an actual JDM car that you could buy in America for less than 10 grand. It comes with a 2-liter V6 making 125 horsepower, and it's obviously rear wheel drive. Now, there are a lot of drifty boys out there that love the Safiro platform. Not necessarily the motor under the hood, not really the best thing out there, but people be slapping, SRs into here, and they like them a lot. So if you like drifting, I personally don't like the looks of the A31 Safiro, I'm going to be 100% honest, but everything else about it is pretty cool. Number 19 is the perfect reason for me to explain myself. The Toyota Celica GT 6th gen, because yes, I'm putting it in this list because JDM, I know technically means Japanese domestic market, and it means that if you buy a left-hand drive car over here in America, that bad boy ain't JDM, it's USDM. But they're Japanese cars, and the term JDM is going to get me more views, and on top of that, it's just a common term now, guys, so please don't get too upset. But either way, this car comes with a 2.2-liter inline-4, making 135 horsepower, and it's frog wheel drive. That's right, there's 2 frogs actually that go in the front of the car, and they just hop along, and that's how you drive. It's crazy. Obviously, these cars are quite reliable. Not the fastest on this list, 135 horsepower, pretty slow. And they're not the best for building power either. But they look really cool, and they're pretty good rally cars. At least the all-wheel drive versions are. Speaking of pretty good rally cars, number 18 is the Subaru Legacy GT 2nd generation. Because I was going to put the 1st gen on here, but then I was like, you know what? The 2nd gen is more of a 90s car, I feel like. Like, the 1st gen was built in the 80s at first, like the late 80s, but then carried over into the 90s. 2nd gen was built in the 90s, ended in the 90s. Either way, though, it comes with a 2.5-liter flat 4, making 165 horsepower, and it's all-wheel drive. That motor's shared in, like, every single gosh darn Subaru of the late 90s, early 2000s. It's in, like, the Foresters, it's in the Imprezas, and it's obviously in the Legacy GTs as well. And their Legacy GT... Now listen. You may be thinking to yourself, Mark Daniel Roden, I'm not a fan of the Legacy GT because I like the Impreza. And to that, I have to say, why not both, partner? 17th position is a car that is literally not even sold in Japan. The Lexus LS400. It is sold in Japan as a Toyota Celsior, but they're the exact same car. So I understand that people are going to be, oh my god, Lexus as JDM? I don't care, man. You know what I meant when I said JDM. It comes with a 4-liter V8 making 270 horsepower in its rear-wheel drive. This car is definitely not a sports car. It's a big old luxury sedan. You're not going to be going fast in an LS400, that's for sure. However, you could do some weight reduction. I've seen some people drift LS400s before. They do only come with an automatic, so keep that in mind. You're stuck to an auto. But they look insane. They look so good. They're just like VIP style cars. If you don't really care too much about going fast, but you just want to drive comfortably and reliably while looking cool as hell, here you go. 16th place is like the complete opposite of the Lexus LS400. It's the Honda Prelude 4th generation. The LS400, it's a big old boat. The Prelude, it's a small little Honda that doesn't make that much horsepower, but it's little and nippy because that's what Hondas do, my boy. This one comes with a 2-liter inline-4 making 190 horses, and it's frog wheel drive again. So many frogs in this world to go around. Did you know that? Like, there are that many frogs in this world that they travel with all these cars? It's crazy. But the 4th gen Prelude is my personal favorite, and I know the 5th gen is like the overall favorite of like the rest of the community, I would say. But it was built in 1999, and I don't really classify that as a 90s car, but either way, the 4th gen Prelude is still so good. It only has 10 horsepower less, and it looks so much better. 15th place, this is the one vehicle on the list that I was like, it's not a sports car in any way whatsoever, but I want to include it anyway. The Toyota Tacoma 1st generation. It is like the Japanese version of the Ford Ranger. Scratch that. The Ford Ranger is like the American version of the Toyota Tacoma, because this bad boy is just the pinnacle of reliability. It comes with a 3.4 liter V6 making 190 horsepower, and it is obviously 4x4 because it's a big old truck. Now there are 2 other inline 4 motors out there that make less horsepower, but they're also cheaper. And honestly, I would probably recommend going with one of those over the V6, because you're not buying the Tacoma to go fast. You know, you're buying it to go off-road, and those are going to get the job done perfectly fine. You could put a freaking go-kart motor in the hood of a Toyota Tacoma, and it'll still serve its purpose. 14th place is a cheat code. It's a big cheat code. It's the Infiniti G35 Coupe, because this car wasn't even built in the 90s. It was built in 2003, but like, I feel like most people commonly think of it as a 90s JDM car. It kind of fits into that era, so I did include it in the list. This is the only time it happened, so I promise, so I'm sorry if you get upset, but I think it deserves to be in the list. It comes with a 3.5 liter V6 making 287 horsepower in its rear wheel drive. This is truly, it broke my water bottle. It is truly one of the best ones on this list, but again, the reason why it's not higher is because I know people would get upset if I put a 2000s car in the top spot of a 90s car video, but I mean, come on, it's a G35 Coupe. It falls perfectly into like the 90s category. We all know that it deserves it. 13th position, however, is probably one of the most iconic 90s cars of all time, period. Not even just JDM, but of all time. It's the Mazda Miata NA, the pop up and down Miata. Everybody wants them nowadays. They cost like $9 grand for like a really good one nowadays. Like, that's insane, but they cost a lot of money. They come with a 1.8 liter inline 4 making 135 horsepower, and they are rear wheel drive. They're obviously, you've heard it all before, go-kart, little monsters, little autocross beasts, whatever you want to call them. They're gosh darn good at handling. That's all that you need to know. Top speed, hilariously bad. Like, my friend had a boosted one, and its top speed was like 95 miles an hour. Like, that puppy is hilariously slow. But around corners, yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy, you're having a fun time now. Coming in at the number 12 spot is the second actual 100p JDM car. Like, this is an imported car. You can't buy them left-hand drive in America. They were never built for America. It's the Toyota Mark II JZX90. Yes, you can find a surprising number of like this chassis, like the JZX chassis, in America for less than 10 grand now. This one comes with a 3 liter inline 6 making 225 horsepower, and it is rear wheel drive. They do also come with the 1JZ GTE, but you're not finding one of those for under 10 grand, sadly. So you are going to have to settle for just a 2JZ GE. But there are, like I said, there are a lot of them. Like, you can find Chasers under 10 grand. They're not going to be JZX100 Chasers, but you can find Chasers for under 10 grand. You can find Crestas for under 10 grand. Like, the JZX platform is surprisingly cheap over in America. I one time saw one that was a manual transmission, $9,500, and it only had like 70,000 miles on it for sale. I was like, oh my Lanta, if I had a lot of money, I would have bought it. 11th place is a car that I talk about a lot on this channel, but not this specific variant. It's the Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4. That's right, we finally get to talk about it. I talk about the 3K GT all the time because I love the car. I think it's one of the best budget sports cars out there right now, if you like looks at least. But I never get to talk about the VR4 because it's a little bit more expensive than what I usually get to talk about. But today I do, because they're under 10 grand. It comes with a 3 liter twin turbo V6 making 320 horsepower, and it's all wheel drive. One of the highest horsepower numbers to come out of Japan in the 90s for a production car. This thing was a monster. Active aero, all wheel drive. Now, sadly, most of those features are broken. They are broken today because it's an old car, but it's still cool that it has it. Coming in at numero 10 is going to the Mark III Toyota Supra. This puppy and me go together like not white on rice, because I actually don't own one, but I want one so bad. I love the Mark III Supras. A lot of you guys seem to like the Mark III Supras more than the Mark IV Supras. I don't think personally that I don't necessarily agree with that, if I'm being honest, but it is still a really cool car. It comes with a 2.5 liter inline 6 making 200 horsepower in its rear wheel drive. Now, this car comes with a lot of different motors depending on where you're from. I know it did come with a 1JZ GTE at one point. You're not finding one of those under 10 grand. Let me tell you that. You're not finding a 1J under 10K. But this one, I think it's a 7M GE. Yeah, you can find them under you can find them under 10K. Pretty easy, man. These Mark III Supers are under 10K all day long. Ninth place is one of my favorite little boys of the 90s of all time. That sounded weird. I am not Jeffrey Epstein, and I have never been to his island as well. But it's the Subaru Impreza 2.5 RS GC. The GC platform in general is just so good. It's just so good, man. It looks so cool. It comes with a 2.5 liter flat four, making 165 horsepower, and it's all-wheel drive. That's the same motor that was found in the Legacy GT we talked about earlier. So you may be like, well, why is this car so much higher? Just because I think it's cooler. Is there a problem with that? Are you angry about that? Well, if you are, I recommend not getting so angry about it because it's just a YouTube video. This car is sick though. It's a small little sedan. It's all-wheel drive. It has rally heritage behind it. Go off-road with this thing. If you live in a winter area, here you go. Coming in at the number 8 spot, however, is a car that is very unreliable, but it's really cool. The Mazda RX7 FC. The FC stands for Fort Canoodling. They canoodle a lot at that fort. They're weirdos. But the FC RX7 is obviously a gorgeous car. I don't have to sell you on that. But it comes with a 1.3 liter 2-rotor rotary engine, making 160 horsepower to the rear wheels. That is pretty cool, man. Rear-wheel drive, rotary-powered motor, making 160 horsepower. The horsepower number is not the best, but the car also doesn't weigh that much. Now, I know what you're thinking. Mark, this thing is unreliable as hell. Why are you not mentioning it? Because everybody knows it already, okay? And I don't want to be the negative guy, so I'm just going to hype it up instead. Everybody always talks down on rotaries. You know what? I'm going to hype it up. Go, Doritos, go. I like nacho cheese. What are you? 7th place. Uh-oh. Oh yeah, big old hair in my mouth. 7th place is a Nissan 240SX S13. Did you want to be a drift boy in the world of 2024, but you didn't have a lot of money? No worries, because these things are still under 10 grand. They're also still incredibly expensive though, so I'm not going to say that it's a good deal. But either way, they come with a 2.4 liter inline 4, making 145 horsepower in its rear wheel drive. That's a KA. Now, if you're overseas, you get the SR because you're cooler than us for some reason. But the KA is still not a bad motor. You know, it's not the worst. And the car do weigh a little bit, you know. It's lightweight little cars. Parts for these things are also relatively cheap, at least aftermarket parts for these things are relatively cheap. Stock OEM parts are not, but they're drift cars. I mean, they're S13s, man, and yes, you can find them under 10 grand. Coming in at the number 6 spot is going to the wonderful Honda Civic EG. EG stands for Eek! Grenade! That's what they yell in the military when they get a grenade thrown at them. They don't say grenade, they say eek, a grenade. But the EG Civic comes with a 1.5 liter inline 4, making 102 horsepower in its front wheel drive. It's a D series. I know what you're thinking. D series not necessarily the best. You know, where's the B series? Where's the K series? Well, don't worry. They're one junkyard away from you, partner. That you literally go down to a junkyard, find some random Honda CRV sitting there, take the motor out, you now have a K series. You have a K series in your EG Civic. The EG Civic is obviously incredibly lightweight. It's proven itself time and time again to be a really good platform to build a drag little monster on. And it's under 10 grand still. It's under 5 grand. Number 5, getting into the top 5 now, is the Toyota MR2 SW20. Every time I see that name, I always think of like 5W20, like oil. I always think of that instead of the SW20 because the S looks like a 5, so I always think about it. But anyway, car comes with a 2.2 liter inline 4, making 135 horsepower in its rear wheel drive. Again, light horsepower, but a lightweight car. Makes for a pretty decent combination. The car's rear wheel drive, and it is mid-engine, and so I'm going to mention it. People make fun of me for mentioning it in every single time I talk about the MR2, but I'm going to do it again. It has something called snap oversteer. Just be careful is all I'm going to say. If you're a first-time driver, don't buy one of these bad boys because you'll probably crash it. Definitely takes a good driver to drive them. But once you do, they handle incredibly well. If you know how to handle it, they handle good. 4th place is one of the most underrated cars on this list. It's the Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX 2G. Did you want an Evo 8, Evo 7, Evo 6, but didn't have like $25,000 to spend on it? Get this. It's the same thing. It comes with a 2 liter turbo inline 4, making 210 horsepower, and it's all-wheel drive. That motor is a 4G63. That's literally the same motor in the Evos, and it's all-wheel drive. It is the same car. It is the same car. Now, obviously, there are a lot of differences between the Evo and the Eclipse, mainly being suspension. And also, the engines aren't exactly the same. They do have some different internals. But for the most part, they're the same. And these cars can still make tons of power. Good little monsters for drag builds. And honestly, they could easily be a sleeper because so many people underestimate these cars. Coming in at 3rd place, getting the bronze medal for this list, is my car. but a much cooler, manlier version of my car, the Acura Integra GSR. I have an LS Integra, and I'm a little upset I didn't get the GSR, but they're too expensive for me, man. Car comes with a 1.8 liter inline 4, making 170 horsepower in its front-wheel drive. Now we're talking, we are getting to the B of the series. This Integras come with B series, in case you didn't know. Good motors to build some decent power on, but the car itself is also really light. It's just honestly, like, of all the cars on this list, if you were looking for just a lightweight little autocross car, and I'm not just being biased because I own one, but I would recommend getting an Integra. These things were the fastest front-wheel drive car in the world when they came out. Not the GSR, the Type R, but same platform. You could very easily get it to be an insanely quick little car. Second place, however, is going to one of my favorite JDM cars of all time, the Nissan 300ZX Z32. The Z32 has a lot of downsides. I'm not gonna argue that. Working on them is a nightmare. They're not the fastest. They can't make the best power. They're not the most reliable. They don't have that much room. But they're just so gorgeous. The car comes with a 3-liter V6, making 222 horsepower, and it is rear-wheel drive. Now, you might honestly be able to find a turbo model out there under 10 grand. I'm not gonna say you can 100%, but you might be able to. But even if you can't, the base model is just such a gorgeous looking car. Like, again, these cars aren't the best for like building power. Like, you're not getting a race car with a 300ZX, okay? It's not like the best deal for that out there. But if you just want a gorgeous JDM car that you pull up to car meets, and everybody, whether they're an old person or a young person, is going to look at you and be like, that guy made a good choice on his car, you buy yourself a Z32. First place is literally one of my favorite JDM cars of all time, no joke. And yes, you can still find them under 10 grand. I freaking love these cars. It's the Lexus SC300. I want an SC so bad. There's one in my town, and the guy was going to sell it to me for $1,800, but that was like 3 years ago, before I bought the Z, actually. And I said no, because I was an idiot. Like, if he would have sold that to me now, I would have been like, oh my god, I would have had 20 of them. They're so cool. They come with a 3-liter inline 6, making 225 horsepower in its rear-wheel drive. It's actually the same motor that came in the Mark II JZX90 we talked about earlier, a 2JZ GE, which is decent for making power, but that's not really why I'd buy the SC300. I don't think that's why you're going to buy the SC300 either. It's just a rear-wheel drive, good-looking, honestly really luxurious for its time car that has tons of aftermarket support. It is going to be a ton of fun for you to drive. Mainly, it's just good looking though. I think the SC300 looks incredible. It's a really cool car. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. I just wanted to get this video out here because I haven't done like just a top 20, blank cars video in quite some time. It's always like related to something, and it has to be like some sort of spin on it. And I guess this one did have a spin on it. It was 90's JDM cars. I guess that was the spin. But I love JDM cars. As you guys know, I'm a massive JDM fan. It's probably my number one my number one country out there for cars by far, like without a doubt. I like BMWs as that's like my favorite car brand of all time. But then it's like right after BMW, it's like Nissan, Honda, Toyota. It's like all Japanese cars. So I would say my favorite country is Japan, but my favorite brand is BMW. So I really want to get this out there because I look at these cars like almost every day on Marketplace because I want to buy them. Like, they're all really cool cars in my opinion. Now, admittedly, not literally all of them. I mean, like, I don't really look at like Lexus LS400s. Like, I don't want to buy a Lexus LS400 or the Nissan Safiro. I don't want to buy that either. But most of these cars I'm looking at every day because I like them that much. So I just wanted to make a video. I don't know, it was fun, man. Hate on me in the comments all you want. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.